forward. Okay. All right. So today our presentation is on the PACE framework. Can everybody see my screen? Good. Yes. All right. So Illinois is working on the PACE framework, and districts are moving toward making sure that the students are aligned with the Illinois framework. Some are using the standard state template, others are building their own. And so we have panelists today that are going to talk about their implementation and their work with the Illinois PACE framework in their districts. Our two panelists today are Beth Airy and Erica Kuba. And Erica, I'll allow you to introduce yourself, and then you just let me know when you need me to click.
Awesome. Good morning, everyone. My name is Erica Kuba. I am the career coordinator for Des Plaines Valley region. So within my region, I serve 6 districts and 9 schools, all located in Cook County, Illinois. What I'm really going to focus on today is House Bill 3296 and how it relates to the PACE framework. So I will go ahead and get started so we can start the presentation. Sorry, you can just, yeah. Okay, so House Bill 3296, if you don't know, was signed 2 Mays ago. So May 2022 from Governor Pritzker to develop and implement high quality college and career pathway systems to ensure students are prepared for post-secondary success. So there's 2 branches to that House Bill 3296. One of them is being PACE framework and how PACE framework can assist with post-secondary success. And the other branch is college and career pathway endorsements. One of the main changes of the PACE framework is that schools are now required to start career development or career exploration as early as 6th grade. So we really want to make sure that when the students get to high school, that they already have a sense of all the different pathways that Illinois serves. So in Illinois, we have 7 pathways, and within those pathways, there's, I think, 27 career clusters that feed into the pathways, but those national career clusters that everyone's familiar with feed into the 7 pathways of Illinois. So that is really what PACE framework is. Some schools go earlier than that. One of my schools in my district, Ridgewood, already created a PACE framework to start as early as kindergarten. So that's really exciting stuff, but we can go on to the next slide. So to kind of deep dive into what the requirements are for college and career pathways, it's really all the same across the state. The only things that you will see different is the timeline. So CPS actually has their timeline is a year before us. So everybody in Illinois has to either opt into this program or opt out by July 2025. And then each year there's certain requirements. So by 2027, you have to have 1 pathway. That's different for Chicago Public Schools. They have to have at least 1 pathway by 2026. So just keep that in mind. But the requirements of the College and Career Pathway Individual Plan or endorsement, the first requirement is the individual plan. And that's really where our counselors come in to work with our students to make sure that there's an individual plan, that they know what the pathways are, know what the career clusters are. Students have to prove college and career readiness. So to do that, they either have to take transitional math or transitional English, or they have to have an identifier from a CCRI. So whether it's their SAT score or something in those regards, they have to prove that they're college and or career ready. They have to do concentrator coursework. So when you're looking at a student, you don't want to have one student take culinary classes and engineering classes. You really want to have that student find their pathway and then continue coursework. They have to complete dual credit, 2 team-based challenges, and then they also have to do work-based learning. And we'll go into each one of those, but we can go to the next slide. So like I mentioned before, Illinois has 7 pathways. So we have the agricultural pathway, arts and communication, finance and business, health and sciences, human and public services, information technology, and manufacturing, engineering, technology, and trades. So for each pathway, you have to have 1 endorsement by 2027, which is one of these, 2 endorsements by 2029, and 3 endorsements by 2031. However, you can have multiple clusters for a school being endorsed where it would only count for 1 pathway. So if your school, let's say, has a culinary program and a criminal justice program, that's 2 separate pathways that they're endorsed in, but it falls under human and public services. So it will only count as 1 pathway for your school requirements. We can go ahead to the next slide. So dual credit, I'm sure this is a huge topic now. Everyone's getting into dual credit. So students are required to have 6 hours of college coursework. And within our district, we really focus on dual credit versus dual enrollment. So dual credit, I like to look at as happening within the school. So the high school teacher is qualified to teach a college level class. So the students are either able to take the class as a dual credit class or just a high school class. There is some confusion with that sometimes because there are students who might want to take the class, but are afraid that they might not get a C or higher, and that would have implications on FAFSA because it is a college level class. So even if it's a high school teacher teaching the class, not every student within the classroom has to take that class as dual credit. So please keep that in mind. And then what we do a lot in our regions is we have dual enrollment. So we actually have a cohort where students from all 9 of our high schools come to Triton Community College, and they take one of 3 cohorts right now. So either criminal justice, CNA, so certified nursing assistant, or welding, which falls under manufacturing, engineering, technology, and trades. So they're able to just take full-fledged on college courses while they're in high school. So that counts towards the endorsement as well, as long as they have a minimum of 6 hours of college coursework within their specific pathway. Again, if they have 3 in culinary and 3 in engineering, that won't count towards receiving an endorsement. One of our main goals that we do is to make sure that we have that our CCPEs are connected to certifications and credentials. We understand that not every student wants to go to college. Some want to go to the trades. We have an excellent pre-apprenticeship that we just started with the Plumbers Trade Union. So we want to make sure that within these endorsements that students are also getting certifications and credentials so that they have resume builders and really can prepare them for that post-secondary success that you see in the PEACE framework. So we can move on to the next slide. Awesome. So another requirement is team-based challenges, which is really focused on the specific teacher, the CTE teacher of the course. So students do have to complete 2 team-based challenges, again, within their specific pathway. The requirements are that they have to solve an authentic problem. It can't be task-oriented. It has to be an authentic problem. They have to work together in small groups, have an industry mentor. Industry mentor can be anyone outside of the classroom teacher. It can be a virtual mentor. It can be a community college mentor. But the idea of it, and which is my favorite part, is to help our underserved students really make connections with people in the industry that they're looking to get into. They have to at least identify one essential technical skill. So that falls within their specific pathway. So if it's culinary, it might be like learning culinary math. And then they have to identify one cross-sector employability skills. Obviously, during a team-based challenge, they're doing problem solving, they're doing conflict resolution, they're doing time management. But the point of the team-based challenge is to really focus on one and assess students on one so that they can assess themselves and get feedback on one specific employability skill. And then they do have to have an end product or end presentation. If you have any questions about team-based challenges, Dr. Eric Lasky from Ridgewood High School, they actually started piloting CCPE is back in 2018. He is a great resource, so feel free to reach out to me and I can get you in contact with him. We can go on to the next slide. So work-based learning is such a huge part. So again, in that PACE framework, starting in 6th grade, the students are doing their career exploration and they're having guest speakers come in and they're doing job shadows. They're going on field trips to really identify which pathway they might want to go into. Once they've completed a few courses within their pathway, then they will go into that work-based learning. So this is really for more of your seniors, sometimes juniors though. They must total in 60 hours and it must be within the pathways. So the student could, if they're in culinary and doing work-based learning in culinary, they can't be, doing a like village program over the summer with children and has to be directly related to the pathway that they're in. It can be paid or credit based, so students could get paid for these programs. A lot of districts will do this through grant funding. My current boss used to work in Peoria at Woodruff Career Center, and they do a lot of funding for these types of programs through grants. And then, but they could also be work-based. So I have schools like Leiden High School who has a culinary program within their school where they actually run a restaurant, or Ridgewood High School within their construction program, they're building a small house. So those are work-based learning activities that are credit-based for the students. But anything, either it could be a CTSO, it could be apprenticeship, a pre-apprenticeship. Like I said, our students are involved in a pre-apprenticeship with the plumbing trades right now. So every day, on Mondays and Wednesdays after schools, they're down in Chicago for 2 hours each day learning about the trade. And that can absolutely count towards their work-based learning as well, as long as it's the student's pathway. We can go on to that next slide. So all together again, it starts with the individual plan, and that individual plan comes from career interest surveys, which are huge and important. I don't think that we utilize them enough when we're trying to identify students for specific CTE programs. That career interest survey is really going to help you. And again, that all comes in from the PACE framework. So CCPEs are kind of like an add-on from that PACE framework. Again, students need to do 6 hours of dual credit. It can be AP. I'm sorry, I should have said that earlier. It can be AP or IB. We stress dual credit because dual credit relates specifically to career and technical education. So it usually falls in line with the specific programs students are doing. But computer science AP is a pathway, like computer science is a pathway. So students could absolutely get their hours from those AP hours. Students have to participate in 2 team-based challenges. That's 60 hours of work-based learning, and that all equates to 2 years or 4 semesters of coursework. It just kind of wanted to show that all on one page. Within my region, we started by the end of last year, we ended up with 149 college and career pathway endorsements that we were able to give to students. Before that, the year prior, it was under 10 and only 1 school. So the more awareness we can bring, the more programs that we can offer where a student is going within a pathway, the more options that we have for endorsements. You can go to the next slide. I think I have one more in here. So now we talk about the currency. Why do CCPEs? And this is what everyone asks. And one huge thing is reduced tuition cost. All of the students within my district, and it is based on your specific schools, but everyone who comes to Triton Community College for their cohorts does not have to pay for early college. They don't pay for those classes. So for example, my criminal justice students are currently taking, by the end of this semester, they'll have 12 total college courses that they take that they didn't have to pay for. So this is really helping our underserved students. Same with students who are taking dual credit within our high schools. Triton Community College doesn't charge our students. Some colleges will. I know that Triton is one of the only that don't, but even the community colleges that do at minimal costs. This college and career pathway endorsements introduce students to mentors within their industry. This is my favorite thing about it. I can't stress it enough. Every job I've ever had has been from networking and meeting people. So being able to present, especially our underserved students, with mentors within the industry that they want to be in is just really can help them get a leg up in their career. It helps them with career readiness and employability skills. What we're hearing from colleges, what we're hearing from employees is, especially after COVID, that students are coming in to college and to the work industry, and they don't have employability skills. They lack communication. I'm sure you guys see it yourself at your own schools. So these programs really help them learn those employability skills and self-reflect on them as well. It helps build their resumes. If they have a college and career pathway endorsement, they can put that on their resume. They can put their work-based learning on their resume. So people can see that they have been they have worked for somebody before. Like I mentioned before, certifications and credentials are excellent for resume building. The program also offers scholarships. So there's a lot of community colleges that will offer additional scholarships to students who earn college and career pathway endorsements. So when they high school, they can take classes at reduced costs. There's every community college does it differently. But there's also scholarships like the Golden Apple, which most people are familiar with within the education pathway. So students who earn a college and career pathway endorsement under Human and Public Services become finalists automatically for the Golden Apple. So it really helps our students kind of get that leg up within the industry. Every day, the currency continues to grow. So this is just a great program in general that we're offering our students. So I think that might be the last slide, but we can, yep. So that's all I have. Again, our district has gone from 10 college and career pathway endorsements to 149 just in 1 year. And we'll have an additional college and career pathway endorsements this year as well. So it really connects directly right to the PACE framework because it is under the House Bill 3296, and it really stresses that post-secondary success for the students, whether it's college or career. Thank you.
Next, we have our next panelist, Beth Array from, she's a college and career coordinator at Evanston Township High School.
Hi, thanks for having me. So that, Erica, that was fantastic, and a much deeper dive into much more current, endorsement information, which is super valuable. And I'm not going to go into the endorsement piece as much, and I'll say it's mostly because at Evanston we haven't gotten that far into our process. In full transparency, a lot of that has to do with some staffing changes and looking at revamping our team. And I think that's one of the things I wanted to start with was just the whole idea of team building. Who is on the post high school planning team? And I'll get to that in my next slide. But just to give a picture of Evanston Township High School, as college and career coordinator, we are a one school district. So we are grades 9 through 12. You can see a little bit of the data points from our school profile here. Our National Student Clearinghouse data that we generally report out in situations like this is to say that 79% of our students enroll in college at least a year out of high school. So we find that our student enrollment is higher after a year after graduation. So that's a pretty interesting statistic to us that students enroll after having had some time out of school. And then you can see the breakdown of 2- and 4-year colleges there for that enrollment. You can go ahead to the next slide. So in a little brief on the left-hand side here, our process started with building that team, as I mentioned previously. We came up with a post-secondary planning committee, And that team, as you're building and planning in these early stages, or in the what I like to call the redo stages, I get asked a lot, if you were to do things differently, what would you do? And I say definitely assess the team that you've brought together. And so for those of you who are out there, either just building your team or trying to think about how you can do things differently, really assess who's on your team. Thinking about who you're missing. I think when we first started, we were missing teachers. We had counselors, we had, the lead counselors in our department. We had the CTE department chair. We had our analysts from the data research side, and we had our curriculum AP and college and career, etc. But we were really missing out on the teacher part in the development of how college and career post-secondary could be used in the classroom. So that was an early sort of mistake that we made. In that committee, we had gone to a conference back in 2014 where we learned about ILPs, or individualized individual learning plans. And at that point in 2014 is when we decided to develop what we call our ICAPs, or individualized career and academic plans. Came to learn that I believe that is what they call their 4-year plans in Colorado and a few other states. So other states have, similar to the PACE framework, graduation requirements that have some form of this 4-letter, acronym for a plan. And so at ETHS, we have our ICAP. In 2016, the PACE framework was developed, and we realized they were very similar. And we were able to then develop a design of what we thought would help our families understand our ICAP because of the way that the framework was presented to us. We developed what you see on the screen here, which are cards. They're physical cards that are front and back by grade level that we give to our families. We currently don't have it in this format online because of the ability to be translated. But within our new website design that we're coming up with, we will have the sort of checklist that could be printed out should the family choose to. We decided to make it in the form of a checklist because we thought that being deliberate and strategic with the work and making it sort of user-friendly, hang it on your refrigerator, go through this process together as a family was particularly important to us to follow along as the plan goes. So the ICAP is that 4-year plan where freshman year, we really focus on self-exploration. Sophomore year is career exploration. Junior year is that post-high school planning piece. And then senior year is decision-making. So we, again, used what we were already doing with our counseling curriculum and what we were doing here in College and Career Services as far as our programming. Looked then at the PACE framework to see what we may have been missing, right? And then made sure that we were filling in any gaps that our families might need to achieve their goals. So as we're looking ahead to CCRI, we're always adapting and making sure that families are that we're including things that are important to meet the House bill, et cetera, et cetera. And we do this all through School Links, which we got in 2020. So all of our previous documentation was Naviance. So we would have housed our ICAPs and our activities that our students did in Naviance, which are now in School Links. So I looked at the attendees list in this webinar, and I saw that many of the attendees are counselors, direct service counselors. And I know that in the Chicagoland area, many schools are switching over to School Links, and there's a big question of how to manage the to-dos and the parts of PACE and all of those things in School Links. So this is where we house our ICAPs and our to-dos as relates to PACE framework. So it can be done. And it's really it can be very seamless. The data that we have reported out is very helpful. And the way that we do it is right now through Freshman Advisory Study Hall and Sophomore Advisory Study Hall. It is not a perfect science because we don't have a structured system. We are moving toward a 4-year advisory model in the coming years. As you can see on this slide, 25, 26 is our expected launch of a 4-year advisory model, which is like a dream come true. So for those of you who already have a homeroom or an advisory or something, bless you. You are so lucky to have access to your students that way. Right now, the only accountability that we have in terms of getting our students to do the tasks that we're asking of them is in Freshman Advisory Study Hall. That is where there are assigned advisors to students. Sophomore Advisory Study Hall is a little more fluid. And so the activities that we have them do are assigned to them, but they are in an open study hall where in order for them to leave, they have to show proof that they have completed their tasks. And then our junior advisory is just a Google Classroom at this point this year, which we started out. And then we are starting our senior advisory Google Classroom in the fall. And we're only doing these Google Classrooms so that we can be building out our curriculum. So we're doing summer projects to be building out the advisory curriculum that will be in place for when we actually do have our advisory model set up in the 25-26 school year. And so that we can keep training the students to be looking at what comes next in advisory, since the freshmen and sophomores are being given that information. Well, it's really important to us that as we looked at the PACE implementation, that we were doing this with fidelity. So we have dipped down to the middle schools. We have looked at what our sort of feeder district is doing. We're very lucky that our feeder district has also contracted with School Links. And while the 2 district School Links contracts don't speak to each other, which is really unfortunate, that the students, the work that they're doing in School Links as middle schoolers won't just transfer over at this point to the high school. They at least have the exposure, and they also are obviously creating their PACE framework at that level that we kind of just put together. They're not one, but in communication with the district have, talked about what we're doing. I know what they're doing, and they're aware of what the sort of duplication of services might be, and the language we're trying to use to tell kids, you may do this again, but here's the reason why and the value in doing this again when you get to the high school. Or, because we want to avoid the whole, I already did this, as we know kids like to say when they have to repeat something. So we're trying to also educate them on the value and the growth that comes along with post-high school planning and development. So the implementation piece is ongoing. I've often said that this was like the Cadillac version, but I'm shooting for sort of the Bentley version or name better version that you can come up with. But this is where we are right now with the staffing that we have in place. We just hired a new coordinator for our work-based learning program and career coordination, job coordination. So that is evolving in terms of School Links work-based learning opportunities. So that's exciting for us. So hopefully we can maybe even tap into Erica and all the great work that she has shared on how to go from 10 to 149 endorsement pathway endorsements, which is amazing as we're continuing to grow ourselves here at Evanston. But I think that what we're most proud of, what families have taken from our implementation of PACE is our display of the ICAP on this kind of card that they're given and then is useful to them in their review of what activities are coming up, what they've done, what they can expect. There's a little less unknown when they're wondering how their child is going to prepare for their life after high school. So that's what I have for you today.
Thank you, Beth. Next up, we have Bernadette Lemos. I am going to stop sharing and reshare so I can bring her presentation up.
Thank you so much for that. While you do that, good morning, everybody. Bernadette Lemos, Director of Chicago Roadmap at Chicago Public Schools. A lot of what Erica and Beth spoke about, I'll kind of piggyback off of, but there's certainly a lot of specific details I hope is new because we're all kind of doing similar work here. So.
Beth, we're not a Google district, so it's going to take me like a second so I can go through the channels. Hold
Do you want me to pull it up, Keisha?
on. Yeah, you should be able to share from your end.
Looks like I can too, if that helps.
Oh, well, whichever's quicker.
Go ahead, Bernadette. It might be easier for you if you can share it. That way you can go through your slides at your pace.
Okay, I'm actually gonna go ahead and can everybody see that? I'm gonna start from the top here. Okay. Well, thanks everybody. Again, my name is Bernadette Lemos, and I will be talking about how Chicago Public Schools is implementing both CCPE, which Erica talked about earlier, and my colleague Maria Bucio is not able to make it today, but I will talk about how the PACE framework works at CPS, but I've included her information. She is the expert, so I would defer to her if you had further questions. So basically what everybody was talking about is kind of what we're doing here at CPS 2. I think there's a lot of opportunity. We're just starting on some of the work, especially as it relates to the endorsement. So for example, we had just applied for a manufacturing pathway endorsement, and we're in the midst of the IT pathway endorsement. So it actually, even considering how large our district is, we're not approved for, the endorsements quite yet, but we have a lot of the components in operations right now, and I'll talk a little bit more about that and how we're preparing our students for the future. I'm going to go ahead and start with the college and career pathway endorsement. We talked a little bit about this, just want to put the visual back on here about how we are meeting a lot of these components. So, it certainly is low hanging fruit in a lot of ways. We've had an individual learning plan in practice and in operation at CPS for the last 5 or 6 years, right? Our students, in order for them to graduate, they must complete that. Professional learning, of course, has existed. We have a very dedicated work-based learning team that provides opportunities to the entire district, not just CTE, which was a historical nature of our work, but that's since changed. Career-focused instructional sequence, dual credit, and dual enrollment is large. We have over 5,000 students that participate in that in early college. And we're really proud of that. We're looking to grow that, especially with our model pathways, and I'll talk about that. Academic readiness, we do offer transitional learning and transitional English to many of our students. So we are at full capacity for transitional math. All of our schools, with the exception of some small schools, offer transitional math. We're on our way to, and we believe that expanding transitional English to all our high schools is important. So we've got about 3,000 students currently taking transitional math, 3,500 students, and over 2,000 students taking transitional English. Excuse me. I wanted to take the time to talk a little bit about Chicago Roadmap and kind of the uniqueness in which we are addressing the endorsement framework here at CPS. And it's the fact that we have a very strong partnership with City Colleges of Chicago, our largest post-secondary partner. And about 20% of our seniors, it's gone down a bit, excuse me, I shouldn't use that stat, but it's about 15 to 20% of our seniors actually go to CCC. And if that percent is a little higher if you consider them returning after they go to either a 4-year and or go straight into careers, they do return to CCC at some point. And so our relationship has really been the spearheader, if you will, of model pathways, and I'll talk about that in a second. So through the Chicago Roadmap, there's a lot of focuses or a lot of areas in which we determined that there were gaps for our students. And you'll see that we focus on few academic readiness initiatives, high quality programs, which we consider early college, and our model pathways. Student advising had been a challenge in the past, and we really wanted to focus on that. Career exploration, of course, is never ending. We certainly don't have the capacity to provide quality WBL for all students, but we're working towards that. And just as two large institutions in Chicago, we're really trying to make sure, and it being NCCC being our largest post-secondary partner, it's really important for us to make sure that we're dismantling any, heavy processes. We'd want to eliminate sort of unnecessary communications, and we're working together every day in and out to make that such a seamless process for our students. And so this is where we do a big push on model pathways with City Colleges of Chicago. We work with them, and I'll talk about how that's really benefited the program. So the model pathways that we have at CPS are within 4 pathways: healthcare, manufacturing, IT, and construction. We will grow that to other pathways in the future, but right now it's kind of in its pilot phase, right? We certainly, like Erica, want to focus on dual credit because we feel that it's truly equitable access, so students don't have to travel. A lot of our Chicago is vast and wide, and having to travel to a college campus is a challenge for some of our students. And so we believe that dual credit is really bringing that early college experience to the school, and that component is super unique, and there are definitely challenges with that as well. Just talking about how we've developed it, of course, it has to align with, we've aligned it, and we work very closely with Ed Systems as well out of NIU to really make sure that, they are high demand wages. This is just kind of a peek at some of the analysis that we've done and make sure that we wanted to focus on a pathway that can give careers that by the time they're 25, they're making a high wage. They are, in fact, making a competitive wage. A slide that you don't see here that I wanted to show you is that other mapping that occurred for each pathway really worked closely with City Colleges of Chicago. So we looked at all of these sort of fields, and we also looked at the academic courses that are required for each field, and we mapped that out, and we used that in our analysis. So just looking at a healthcare pathway for sure, some of the key features here, and I know within the framework, they require at least 6 credit hours in the pathway. With this particular pathway, we're able to provide 15 plus credit hours. Of course, all of all of our model pathways align to CCC, both basic and advanced certification, as well as an associate degree. So again, if they take these courses or the sequence we've outlined and determined, they'd be well on their way if they decided to continue on. This might look familiar because it really models some of the state guidebooks, but we've kind of brought in a lot more specificity as related to our programs. So you'll see very specific coursework like Bio 120 in here and Bio 116. Those are critical courses within the sequence. So all of our model pathways actually do include two dual credit courses, and an advanced course, a dual credit course. So a student that is considered a completer is a student that completes two or more of those sequence courses. A student is also a participant. This is more of an internal metric, completes one or more, because we understand and truly believe that there are on and off ramps in the model pathway and the pathway in general. And if a student, changes their mind, they certainly are welcome to. But, of course, the hope is that they continue on in the program and sort of see themselves in one of these areas. And so I bring this up because a lot of the voice that we heard is that our students don't have a clear pathway or sequence to see to and through, and we really take pride in providing material for students to look at and see themselves to and through. So you'll see some of that. I kind of just wanted to go into the uniqueness of the actual sequence in the pathway. So again, clarity in what you'll do in 9th to 10th grade, et cetera, 11th and 12th grade. When we worked with City Colleges of Chicago, we picked courses, of course, that seamlessly aligned to the degree, but we also picked courses that do not have any prerequisites. Right, there might be some testing requirements, but there's not additional, English 101 prerequisites. And so if a student starts in that first course sequence, they will seamlessly continue to go through that pathway. And that's something we want to emphasize, that we do emphasize with our students. Another thing that model pathways and working closely with CCC has brought sort of advantage is that we've been able to bring about Model C, especially when there was COVID, but there's also Model B. A Model C is kind of that online synchronous model, but then when you think about a Model C, we're working with City College. If a school says, I'm a model pathway school, which there is a process for that, they don't have a dual credit teacher, which is also very common because dual credit teachers have to have not only the discipline degree, but they have to have 18 credit or 18 hours of additional credit in that space. And so it is difficult to bring dual credit to school sometimes. But the beauty of working with City Colleges is that we raise our hand and we say, hey, Siobhan, hey, Peggy, Gage Park really wants to run this course. Do you have a faculty member that can go into the high school and that can teach this course? Yes, sometimes it is very much a challenge because you don't have a lot of professors and or adjunct that want to work in a high school space. But we have that advantage. It's worked in many of our schools, and we've currently have 3 schools that run a Model B, and bringing, again, that access to students. Another component, as talked about, is that work-based learning piece. The only thing I want to focus on here is that in working with City College of Chicago, we are constantly identifying industry certifications like the BNA, but also academic certifications that already align with students' sequence in the endorsement or within that model pathway. But for example, in healthcare, many of our students are offered a seat, and there are requirements, of course, in the BNA program, and then that just counts towards their graduation. It adds to their credential list. And then there are other, this one speaks a little bit more to the advanced coursework that I talked about, that dual credit offering. Of course, our students can take, dual enrollment as well with those advanced courses. But again, we've committed for the first 2 courses to be dual credit and offered at their high school. So again, this is manufacturing. Not easy stuff to implement, and we're still kind of in the piloting phases. We really wanted to make sure we had all of our ducks in a row before we applied for the actual endorsement, but all of this is intended to position us well for the actual endorsement. And in the meantime, our students are gaining early college credit, semesters worth, and continuing and having those high quality work-based learning experiences. Very quickly, I'm going to go through some of the PACE stuff. I know this is kind of more in line potentially, but Maria Bucio wasn't able to be here. So PACE is very much a part of all of our post-secondary work here at CPS. Some of the things she wanted me to highlight for the team here today is that we as a district are being so much more intentional about engaging our middle schoolers in the PACE framework. So they do have access to a lot of the ILP tasks, that the individualized learning plan tasks that schools have access to. And we're also really employing or providing work-based learning experiences at the grade school level, district-wide. And so that's kind of broadening, and we haven't really touched that before, I'd say 2 years ago. ILP, that's, as I believe it was Beth mentioned, that School Links, yes, we have moved away from Naviance and we've fully adopted School Links, and have migrated a lot of the ILP tasks onto School Links. And so the entire district has access to those tasks. Many of you may know or not know, but we have a success-bound curriculum, also known as C4. This is content and competencies, college and career competencies that are available from grades 6 through 12, in which schools have access to, and schools are implementing for students to develop their strengths in that space. Again, fully aligned with the PACE framework in a lot of ways. Learn, Plan, Succeed, which is our individualized learning plan sort of genesis, if you will, is, a requirement, and we've fully, that aligns with a lot of the PACE framework elements, and this is something that is fully integrated at CPS. So this is just a peek at what schools see by grade level. I know it'd be great to have a full view, and I can send some links over. But again, by grade levels, teachers and, counselors and staff have access to really mark what students are going through and kind of what they experience as part of the PACE framework into their 6th through 12th journeys here at CPS. So I apologize I didn't go too in depth in that space, as it's not my expertise, but Maria's contact is right here, and she'd be happy to work with any of you on some of those concepts. Thank you.
Thank you, Bernadette. Reshare my screen. Okay. This is the part of the presentation where we'd like for our audience to ask questions and answers. You can post your questions in the Q&A. Those that have done so already, we have answered them. But if there are any questions for the panelists, you can please post them in the Q&A section, and then we will address them. Our webinar ends in 10 minutes, so we have about 10 minutes for Q&A. If there aren't any questions, then we will end our webinar early. I will also say that down in Central Illinois, we also have adopted School Links and are implementing it from our 6th through 12th grade. This is the first year of having School Links, and we can look at the reports and see who actually does what. Prior to school links, we were going off of different counselors and their different skill sets, trying to piece together this information. So like Erica said, her boss used to work in Peoria on our team, and we have come a long way of offering endorsements. So ours are growing every year. We had about 3 students at our high school, well, my high school particular, last year, who graduated with endorsements. And so I know each year it's going to grow because it is taken off, and we are really diving deep into that. Now just watch for the questions. So we have one question in the chat that says, we're thinking of making a job shadow experience a graduation requirement. Does anyone have that?
No.
None of my schools have the job shadow experience as part of the graduation requirement, but they do have to have 2 career explorations in order to receive a college and career pathway endorsement. And that would definitely constitute a career exploration. So I think it is a great idea, especially for tracking. It's hard to track career exploration if it's sporadically done by students. So if you make it a requirement, you know that all of your students are completing at least 1 career exploration.
And I know for my particular district, I work in Peoria Public Schools. It is not a graduation requirement, but it is on like the to-dos. So we are encouraging job shadowing, and we are setting up students with job shadowing experiences. And as we dive deeper, it may not make it to the part where it's a graduation requirement, but it's strongly encouraged throughout our pathways.
At CPS, it's not a requirement. It's from a model pathways where the endorsement, similar to Erica's, it will be required part of what's counted if to receive it. It is part of our work-based learning continuum. So it's certainly a recommendation for schools, yes.
Thank you for that question. Different districts in Illinois are at different implementation stages. So we are fortunate to have our panelists here to bring about what's going on in their district so we can all learn from each other. Our next question in the chat, looks like we answered it. We have another one. Are you working with your EFE for job shadow experiences, or is it through the school district? Is there a specific person building the work-based learning opportunities?
So I can start with that one. I'm part of the EFE. So my boss is the director. He is the EFE. So we definitely will assist if any school reaches out to us and asks us to help with the job shadowing. We definitely help connect them with our networks and our contacts. We won't specifically set up the student, but we will introduce the whoever has asked to our industry partner. But for the cohort, so anything that's at Triton Community College, we really help oversee. So one of the things that we're doing right now is work-based learning for criminal justice. So specifically right now, I have my work-based learning endorsement. So I was able to set each criminal justice student who qualified up with a work-based learning experience. But that is not traditional because most EFE offices don't have a career coordinator. So I think that you can utilize your EFE for context, but they won't be specifically setting up the work-based learning.
Okay. All right, and that looks like, is there a database for career coordinators within EFEs?
I guess I'm not sure if the question for career coordinators within EFEs, I think the closest thing to it really depends. I mean, I think there's around 50 EFEs in the region, so I would definitely reach out to your EFE. Part of my role is college and career pathway endorsements, and part of my role is assisting with work-based learning, really, which is why I have that career coordinator title. But I would definitely say that the college and career, if your district or your region has a college and career pathway endorsement coordinator, there is a database for that. And then there's a database for EFE. So I think it just depends on the actual region. But if you want to email me directly, I have a list of all the CCPE coordinators and am more than happy to get you in touch with them.
Right. Looks like we do not have any more open questions in the Q&A section. On. So we will wrap this up. So this presentation has been brought to you by the High School Professional Development Committee. We are the 3 chairs. One of our chairs isn't available today, but Nicole and I are very grateful to our panelists that came today to give the experience of PACE implementation and how it's working in their particular districts. We're grateful for your attendance today. We like to be timely on this committee. And so Beth, myself, and Nicole are appreciative of your time today. And as high school counselors, we are here, there, and everywhere. I am triple booked today. That is the life of us. But as we work towards implementing these pathways in our district, we can be resources to each other. So our recording of this webinar today it will be posted on our site. Our director, Erin Hoover, does that. And so you'll be getting an email. If there are any questions for the presenters, it will be also on there as well. So we thank you all for coming out, and we appreciate you joining us today. Thank you.
Have a great day.
You too.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks. Have a good day.
Thank you.